Hey everyone, today we're going to look at comparing simple and compound interest. So both of them together. So a little while ago we learned about simple interest and it was just multiplying principal, rate, and the time in years. And then we learned about compound interest where we actually had like some parentheses added in there. We still had principal, rate, and time, but we set it up a little bit differently. All right. And so now we're going to go back and just kind of compare the two because what they like to do on questions from like STAR test and such is ask you to like maybe even compare them and answer and how could they relate to each other and that kind of stuff. All right. So let's go to this first part. It says to the answer to a simple interest is just, remember, the interest. Okay, so I'm just going to put an I there, but it stands for interest. I'll do a little arrow for you. All right. With simple interest, if you need the total cost of the loan, like at the end, how much are you fully paying them? Then you must add back in. So we're going to take the interest that we just found plus your principal, your starting amount, okay? And that will give you the total that you need. Okay, so remember your interest plus your principal, your starting amount, and then that will give you your grand total payback money-wise, okay? Now, a little bit different, though, is if you were answered to a compound interest, okay? It's the combination of, and it's already done this for you, because remember, it equals A, all right? So remember, it's A. Remember, they've already gone in, and they've already added this for you, okay? So what I mean by that is, remember that your equation for a compound interest is A equals P parentheses 1 plus R, and it's raised to the T. All right, so like I was saying, A already has all of this included, the principal plus your interest. And so if you need more answers to anything, you can go back and watch those other videos that we made earlier in the week. So let's look at this example together. On these type of examples, we're really going to have to look. Is it asking you for simple interest or is it asking you for compound interest? Okay, and then you got to remember what were those equations again? So we're going to look at this together. If you look, it says that Gabriel deposits $2,500 into each of his two savings accounts. So this is our principal. That's what we start with. So it tells us about account one. So account one earns 4%, and it says the word simple interest. Okay, so that tells me, and I'm going to draw it right here, I equals P, R, and T. All right, so we're going to multiply those three things together. Now, account number two says that he earns also 4%, but it is compounded annually. Now, remember, compounded annually, and I'm going to draw an arrow because there's not enough room. And it's like what we just did up above. A equals P parentheses 1 plus R and to the T up here in the exponent. Okay, so what does this mean for us? It says on here, it says that Gabriel does not make any additional deposits or draw. Basically, he doesn't add any or take any away. What is the sum of the balances of account one and account two at the end of 3 years? So we found our T right here. This is our T, time in years, 3. And it wants us to add the balances of each account. Okay, so we're going to look at that in a second. So first off, let's figure out what account one is, and let's figure out what account two is. So account one, we're going to multiply. All right, so I went ahead and wrote it, and it says we're going to multiply our principal, the 2,500, times 0.04. Remember, we take this decimal and we scooch it over 1, 2. We get 0.04. And then we're going to multiply it times 3, our years. So solve that one. When I solve it in my calculator or on Desmos, I get 300. Okay. What we have to remember is this is the interest, and it wants to know the sum of the balances, meaning the total. So I'm going to go ahead and add back in what we started with. So this is my principal amount, and I'm going to add that back in. And I can type it in my calculator, or I can know that 300 plus 2,500 is 2,800. And let me write that out for you. Okay. So this was our I, and this was our P, and this was our amount in total. Okay. Now, for the second part, it's asking us about a compounding. So when we go to write this out, let me write it. Okay, so I went ahead and wrote it out for you. So we had A equals 2,500, which is our P, parentheses 1 plus R to the T. So remember, we had already changed 4% right here, and we're going to use the same 0.04. And then our years, our 3 years, are going to be up here in the exponent. So if I type that in my calculator or I go to Desmos, I get $2,812, and I get 16 cents. Now, we have to go back to look at what our question initially asked us. And what it asked us was, it says, what is the sum of our balances? So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to add this 2,800 and this 2,812.16. I'm going to add these two together. Okay? And so when I go to add those in my calculator, I get 5,612.16. And is that an answer choice? Yes, it is. So when you have to compare the two, it is a little bit more work, okay? And it is asking you to go and look for those formulas. The good thing is these formulas are on your formula sheet, okay? In your STAR test. It will be given to you. You don't have to memorize those formulas. They will be there for you. So if you want some more questions, more problems, here is a table that you could simply work and you could practice. So the key parts of this table, it says that he wants to take out a $10,000 loan. And it even tells you that's what's going to be your principal. So that is your P. Now, if you notice here, it says total cost with simple interest, and then just your total cost. So remember, this is going to be your P times R times T, and then you're going to add in your plus your P back again because you want total cost. And then this one, remember, is just your simple equation, P parentheses 1 plus R raised to the T. So if you would like, you could go ahead and work some of these. You do not have to, but remember, all of these need to be moved to decimal places. Even if it gives you a decimal, start at the decimal and move it. So I'll help you with the first two. But again, this table should look really familiar. We did it on the past 2 videos that you have watched. Okay, so try those out. Your Schoology today is going to look somewhat like this question we did together for the example. It also will have some simple and some compound. You have to look for those keywords. And what I mean by keywords, look for the word simple or look for the word compound. Or like in our example above, it said both. Okay, be sure you underline or highlight or just make sure you're paying attention to what formula you actually need to use. That's the main error whenever we do these type of problems. So let me scan back down here. Okay, if you would like to work some of these problems, it probably is a good little mix of problems that you can get your job done, and hopefully you know how to do these. If you have questions, please, again, email Mr. Jewell or myself. Have a good day.